Get underway here. My name is Gary Morrill from Alpha Media in Saginaw, Michigan. I'm a member of the program committee for MBMTC 2024. This session focuses on RDS, how small market stations can use it effectively to enhance branding, promote station events, and increase revenue. Our presenter is Mark Wittkoski, the founder of Ameko Group, a senior engineer with WGVU Public Media at Grand Valley State University. He founded Ameko Group, which provides technical consulting and engineering contract services in 2006. Joined WGVU Public Media Engineering Department in 2009. Served on the Michigan Association of Broadcasters Engineering Committee since 2012. We've done that together. And remains an active member of SBE Chapter 102 West Michigan. He's currently serving there as the chapter chair. He received his BS in Electrical and Electronics Engineering Technology from Ferris State University and Master of Science from Grand Valley State University. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. All right. I got a passion for RDS quite a few years ago. I think it was in about 2008. And at that time, I was working for a radio station. Actually, I was one of my contract stations. They wanted to do RDS. The owner wanted to do RDS, and we ran into problems with, we didn't have the money to do anything. So as part of my master's program, when I went back to school in 2005, to wrap it up, I had to do a capstone project, and it was either write a paper or do a program, and writing a paper did not sound appealing to me at all. So what I did is I decided to do a program for RDS. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about like the various formats of metadata, and we're going to talk about RDS encoders. We're going to talk about middleware, why it's needed, what my solution is. But a big part of building up to all this is I want to talk about my development journey on the software I wrote for this. I started off for my master's program, and some of the goods, the bads, and the uglies to that. So some of the various metadata formats, you can receive metadata in XML, and a lot of it can be as simple as, just artist :title. There's never enough information that comes out of the automation system. Minimal customization is available. No generic messaging usually, but it also comes out in IP, serial, file-based, and numerous formats from there. And as we all know, you can buy there's a wide range of RDS encoders. You can range from $350 to $3,000. And the basic encoders do their jobs well, but they're very basic. You have commands like DPS and RT. It all varies depending on the encoder, maybe even text equals. Not a lot of customization you can do with that. I know some of the Innovonics encoders and Automat, you can get in a little more customization, but the basic ones you can't do that with. Like some of the advanced ones you can do scheduling. Just talk a little bit about my setup back in 2009 when I wrote this. I was dealing with Audio Vault version 8.42. All that could really spit out at the time was artist title, cut ID, duration, category, etc. And I was using an Automat FMB10. It's a great little encoder, but there's no scheduling, and it does what you tell it. You send out the artist title, that's what it displays. You can't do nothing else with the box. So I needed something to drive it. The real issue with that was, of course, the owner wasn't happy because the song would stay on during the commercial break, and the program director wasn't happy. So we determined some RDS middleware was needed, and that's where my development started. And of course, it comes down to the ultimate thing, your budget. And we all know this one, no budget. So I had to pull this off without a budget. It all started back in about December 2008. I told my professor or my advisor at that time what I was going to do. He said, "Great, what are you going to program in?" I said, C#. He goes, "What do you know about it?" I said, nothing. So I just forged forward from there. And my initial goals of this project were to receive the metadata from the automation, provide enhanced station branding, be able to schedule messages, send a text file with artist title to our website, and send it to the Automat FMB10 via the serial port on the computer. And that's kind of what my basic automation, or my configuration screen, look for the automation. Very simple IP port, and you define the categories. So you had a little definition there. Now that's how you customize what was going out with this screen here. And then I was able to do some scheduling. That looks all good. And then I had an output on the my export here to send it out to the COM port. That's all I could do with serial at that time, because I only had 4 months to put this all together. And then we could send to a website. So at that point, I went a little farther and said, hey, based on cut name, could I do customized messages based on the cut name? As you can see here, I had the wildcards, and I did stuff like this. These are actual screenshots of my program I took out of my presentation from 2009. That's what it looked like. Very, very crude at that time. And that's what the main user interface looked like. So you say, goals accomplished, right? Yeah, it's never that easy. The project's never over in programming, as you know. I wanted to enhance the user's experience even more. How about allowing more metadata sources coming in, like satellite, from Westwood One or Premiere for the syndicated programming? Can I, instead of just sending it to one encoder, can I go to multiple sites, streaming, et cetera? I wanted to customize radio text independent of the scrolling text. I wanted the ability to clean up poorly formatted metadata, possibly even display the weather forecast. How about, could I do sports scores on it for high school? In this particular market, sports is big. Sometimes it's tougher to sell it in bigger markets, but sports is big and they make money off of it. Now, this is a risky one. Do you want the morning show producer to have direct control of RDS? A lot of trust there, a lot of trust. So those are just some ideas that I was thinking of how to expand on this. So this is what it kind of looked like. This was like the second revision. I'm not sure when I did this. I'm guessing it was probably, I added this screen, I added a second source back in 2012 thinking, hey, I can do two sources now. Was pulling in Westwood One and Audio Vault. I'm thinking, that's good enough. Of course, that's never the case. And then in 2024, I basically, or 2023, I blew up that section of the program, and now I can do 5 input sources. For example, the automation, Westwood One, and then you jump over, and I think one station I was testing on was running Steve Harvey, so I had to switch between 3 different metadata sources. And then, as you can see there, you can have multiple sources. But you want to be able to control what it picks, so you have to set up a monitoring schedule. Here you can see I have to switch between the Wagner and the Steve Harvey morning show on this urban station. And then this particular station was a test station was using OPEX, so I triggered the turning on and off of the sources with the break begin and break end. This metadata screen was one kind of, let's see here, probably in 2012 I added this so I could have 3 serial, 2 IP, and 2 pass-through ports. And that got really convoluted because as I'm learning programming, I learned a lot along the way with programming, and it just, code-wise, it got really bad, and I had to blow up this section of the exports and recreate it, and I went to a thread-based system, which it's kind of interesting. I went from supporting 2 or 5 export tabs, and after blowing up the input and output sections and adding the capability of 5 inputs, 10 outputs, my program shrank 20% because I went to a thread-based system on that. And as you can see, a lot of different options were added along the way, and we'll talk about those. It's pretty flexible today because of I can support TCP, UDP, serial, HTTP, file-based outputs, and there you can see I support IceCache, Outcast, the Omnia 9, SoCast, I just recently added output for JSON and then SecureNet too, because one of my test beds uses SecureNet, and I can directly talk to the SecureNet servers without dealing with their middleware program there. Gives me a little more flexibility. So you ask, why so many exports? You got a primary FM, maybe a backup site, translator, streaming. Maybe you're sending out to Futuria Mobile. So you think 10 exports is a lot? Is it? One thing I found about some of the cheaper encoders is that, like the Pira, it's a great little product, but you get what you pay for. I've never been a fan of the parsing in the Pira. I don't know how many people have Pira units here that export metadata, but it basically followed the standard and broke things into the 8-character chunks. Well, that doesn't necessarily work. If you're not doing the parsing on your own or having a middleware doing it, it looks really, really bad. And as you can see on the side here, I ended up doing an 8-character parsing, and it looks. I can make a Pira look like, $1,000 RDS box, and it does look good. I mean, one of my test beds, I did a lot of tests in small markets, but I also had a friend in a bigger market who said, sure, I'll turn over my 50 kilowatt station to you. You play with the RDS. And I was very fortunate. So he's running a Pira in I think market 68, is it? And you can't even tell he's running a $400 Pira on it. So I came out, I did some updating here over the years, and this is how you customize your messages going out for the songs. And I put a little thing in there called Smart Text. I know other RDS middleware programs have this. And let me say, this is, what I'm doing here is not original. It's my take on it. I wanted control of it. Like I said, it fit my budget. And it's been a fun little project that has lasted way longer than I anticipated. I figured when I started this project, it was going to be in and out, get my grade, move on. A couple years after I kind of put this on hiatus, somebody called me and said, I got a little small market running digital jukebox. What can you do for me? And so it was really, I don't know, if I did not receive that call, I probably wouldn't be even developing this thing anymore. It's just, like I said, it's an ongoing project. Programming is never done. So the smart text here, what it does is you only have 63 characters, and you want to make the best of that. So what happens if you got a long slogan like today's hit music? Well, 63 characters fills up real quick. So what you want to do is have a second alternative. So if you go over 63 characters, you can go to the smart text, create another one, and just put your call letters. And if all else fails and it can't come up with something, you better make sure that alternate text at the bottom is your go-to. And if that doesn't fit 63 characters, well, as a program or engineer, you've screwed up, because that's got to be 63 characters there. And if you don't, actually, to be honest with you, if you don't make that compliant, I don't know what's going to happen. I never tested that. I just assumed, you're going to be 63 characters. So I don't know if I even checked to make sure it fits at that point. I guess if you can't make it work by that point, you get what you deserve. So anyway, I cleaned up the screen a little bit. I think it was earlier this year. If we go back here, you can see that smart text is really small in the corner, and people are probably going, well, it is kind of small. So as you can see, I adjusted it there so it sticks out more. It tells you how many smart texts you got set up, so it's a lot nicer there. So some of the messaging I've done in small markets is I don't like to overutilize scrolling text, because you're dealing with 8 characters that have to go on your car screen, and you don't want to have long messages because you're going to put somebody probably in a ditch. But of course, we all have to remember that scrolling text was designed for 8 characters. And I remember at another show I was at, they were talking about how some of the cars now they're stupid because they go to grab the RDS, and what they do is they follow the true standard and they look at the 8 characters, and that's what they embed. Like, I got a 2006 Prius, and it will grab what it thinks is the call letters of the station, and it'll put it as the preset. And, some people say, well, it's bad car manufacturers. No, they're actually following the standard of how RDS is supposed to be. So us, in the U.S., we've kind of really, with this 8-character parson, we've kind of blown it up. So I'm going to actually defend the car manufacturers and say they're doing their right thing. So in this particular station, we kept messaging really simple, not long, and that's what they're doing for the scrolling text there. And that's what, it's real simple, customizing the scrolling text there. You can specify days, the start date, the end date, the time. And what's interesting here is it's just pretty straightforward. You don't have to go into text files and modify. I know some of the old middleware out there, you have to go into text files, and that just gets annoying. Everything's at a click here. So here's some radio text we use. As you can see, it gets a little more complex here. Messages, like I have an Equinox, and it displays radio text really nice. Now, my wife's Honda Pilot, we spent twice as much on. It doesn't even show radio text. I don't get it. And it's probably, it drives me nuts. I actually decided, my last car I bought, my wife thought I was nuts. I didn't like the RDS didn't display right, and I said, this car isn't for me. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. A little car radio made or broke the sale on this. And when I bought my Equinox, I told the sales guy, you tell me if the RDS works before I even come out there and look at it. And he said, you okay? And it did. So, that's just the engineer side of me. So, anyway, here's some of the text we used for this particular market. And we like you see Elliot and Nina on there, and you see the retro lunch and some of these shows, because like the Westwood, well, in this case, at the time of this, the Westwood one wasn't sending metadata for the Elliot and Nina show. That they are now. And one thing I like about being in control of the program is Westwood one, they don't send metadata for everything, and I've been told they put the responsibility of the metadata back on whoever's sending it. So formats can vary, and when a format varies, I have the ability to go in and modify, like my input filters versus, contacting the manufacturer and say, it doesn't work, okay, we'll look into it. You know how long that can take. But you can also intermix these messages however you like. You got different timestamps. And one of the things you want to do is these songs do display different on every car, as you know. Like this one is right. There's no padding on. Some encoders fill up the whole 63 characters, meaning that because they do that, the car will see all 63 characters are used, and it will, that's why it looks like left justified there, because it's actually trying to fit 63 characters up there on the screen like that. So if you actually have in your encoder, and I mentioned this a little later, in your encoder, like the Piras, I know there's a spot to not pad your RT radio text. And if you have that option turned off, most of the new encoders, they actually, they don't pad them like in the old days. Like the FMB 10 pads it. I think the FMB 80 pads it. Is it the FMB 80? But there's several. And when you see it justified like that, this previous one, that's just because it's padding the 63 characters. But here, this is with the padding, padding turned off. The padding turned off. It centers it up nice and neat on the screen. So these are what I'm going to show you here. Some of the rules I've came up with that I think are best practices. These are just, like I said, my rules. Since the scrolling only has 8 characters, keep the messaging simple. You want to capitalize. I like capitalizing all scrolling text messages because it gives it a cleaner look, in my opinion. Use radio text for more detailed. You got 63 characters. Use it up. And because it doesn't scroll, you show it on your screen. The driver of the car can look over, glance at it, get it real quick. But you don't want to get too crazy with that. I always felt people want to know the artist and title. Make that dominant. You want that to dominate your messaging. You don't want to clutter up your RDS with too much stuff. And then this is a new and improved cut trigger screen here. I've expanded on that a little bit. You can have the message length and, what the cut triggers is good for is one station that was one of my test bed stations. They do a traffic report. Traffic report pops up, bam, says traffic report on the screen. And as soon as that's done, it goes back to generic messaging. The nice thing is with the scheduling, I can, that happens in the middle, any middleware, is you can rotate messages and get information out there. And as you can see, the cut triggering messaging appears up on the screen. So when it sees the 2K asterisk, like back here, is that on that screen? I don't have, okay, I got a couple different screens here that vary, but when it sees that 2K, in this case, it will throw back, throw that messaging up there. So, and that's an example of some messaging during satellite programming. Or actually, that's not satellite program. That is playback files right there. So you ask yourself, is there revenue opportunities? You see more and more ads. I know I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I can tell you in Michigan, there's a auto law place. I can't explain it. They got obsessed with buying RDS. Every market I go to in Michigan has autolaw.com on the screen. And my understanding is they're paying big bucks for it. So if it works, go with it, right? And I even hear people go, I'm so sick of seeing it. But they go, that auto law stuff, and I go, I think it worked. They got the point across. They might be annoyed by it, but every time you say, that sponsor, that's all they want. So you could throw messages into like your our radio text. Visit Joe's Tire Service for year-end deals. Hey, just sell that to an advertiser. Maybe you can around the end of the year, toss it in, add it as possibly a add on to the commercials he's buying. And I when I first came up with this for my Big Rapids market that I do work for, I don't understand that there's a car dealership in town. He absolutely loved seeing his name on the radio. Hey, if it sells, go with it. But one of the important things here is after I implemented this for this owner up there, he's like, why am I seeing this ad every other message? I go, well, you only have like 2 messages rotating, so this is one of the messages. So as you can see, you look down in the lower left, or lower right, excuse me, minimum time. You don't want that sucker to display more than every 8 minutes. That made him happy because you don't want it to go hog wild on this. You don't want Joe's Tire Service up there every 5 minutes. Or every 2 minutes, I should say. Another feature I put in at one point was, it's called special events. This will override all messaging for a certain amount of time. Like say you're doing a broadcast from Mario and you want that to dominate. That you can set a time, it'll put it in there. And so just during your live broadcast. Ironically, I think remote broadcasting has got so simple over the years, and you're seeing less and less of it. When I say simple, I just mean I remember the Marty days when you got to go set up an antenna. So when you can just talk into your phone with an app, and people don't do it. I think a lot of it is people are just overworked, small amount of staff, etc. I always thought having a weather forecast on the radio, short and sweet and simple, is the way to go. So what I did is my original design used Weather Underground, but I had limited API calls. The API was shut down when purchased by IBM years ago. I ended up switching to weather.gov. You got regular updates, provides high and low temps, and provides weather conditions. And it's free, so it fits the budget. You don't have to subscribe to it. So that's the screen for it right there. You just put in the URL. Basically, I'm doing about the same thing, if anybody remembers Arctic Palm. They did the same thing. They went out and grabbed that. And I'll tell you, I definitely learned that website and the URL, or the HTML was written by government people, because it was the most convoluted XML I've ever seen in my life. They got tables. You have a table for this, a table for that, and then you got to merge all the tables together. It was quite ridiculous. And you have the option to send that to scrolling text or radio text. And I also added at one point, you could have a option if you see a particular cut name come up, like weather, it will display the weather while they're doing the weather. The downside of that is I trust where it's pulling the information from weather.gov, but it never matches what they actually say. High is 70, 68. I don't know. I don't even worry about it. But I don't. That's programming. I don't get into programming of the station. And of course, I do my best. I try to format it the best I can through the software. Like, you can see you can have an intro there, and if the intro fits, as you can see, it will put it. And if it doesn't fit, then it'll try to scale it down. Like you see on the first line, it actually tries to give conditions for both days. The second one, it doesn't work, so it says, well, let me cut the conditions out. Does it fit? No, it doesn't fit. Then it cuts it down to, it takes off the intro, and it runs through like 5, 6 different scenarios and does the best. And I've never seen it not display, but I've seen also display just the current forecast for the day, because that's all it fits. Some weird windy condition shows up or whatever. And but I've never, like I said, I've never seen it not display something, which is better than nothing. And as I said, it checks for the best formatting. The last option, it truncates it. I hate that. I don't like that. But it is what it is. Again, you limit it to 63 characters. And this is what it looks like when it displays. Short and sweet. What I like is weather.gov on holidays. It automatically puts up like Memorial Day, Labor Day, President's Day. Gives a little personal touch. I like it. Of course, then you might run out of your 63 characters when they do that, but it is what it is. One thing I found important was having a display schedule, and you may say, why? Well, one of the stations that I did a lot of testing on, they run the Steve Harvey Morning Show, or Bob and Tom. Well, talk. So they don't have a lot of artists and title on, like, they don't have any music on Bob and Tom, so let's display the weather forecast longer for, instead of every 7 minutes, displayed every 5 minutes. So you want to have a little flexibility there. I mean, you have nothing really displaying except a couple messages. Why not throw the weather forecast up a little more? Then you say, well, can I enhance the listener's experience more? Well, sure. How about fixing the format that is being sent from the automation? As you can see there, this is the way it was in this particular system. The title was capitalized, but Stevie Nicks was in lowercase. You're like, okay. Kind of drives you nuts. And as you can see down there in the lower part of or lower right of the screen, you have a couple options where you can force capitalization on everything, or you can do smart capitalization. That's what I call it. That's just another name for saying I'm going to capitalize everything and try to capitalize everything. But I thought it sounded impressive by calling it that. See, if you force capitalization, that's what it looks like. And smart capitalization, it goes in and looks a lot nicer on the second line there. But what I just told you, it's not perfect. So what happens if you have AC/DC or in excess? You go, ugh. Well, I came up with a little more work, and I came up with what's called search and replace. So if you see AC/DC, it goes in and it capitalizes it. You say, well, this one's not case, you can make it case sensitive, or it contains. So yes, as you see, everything's in uppercase here, but it's just saying AC/DC, put it back to AC/DC. And so then you can, under that screen, you can use it to ignore, replace, substitute, etc. A lot of flexibility there. And here's what it looks like after the search and replace. Looks a little nicer. But you have to be careful. You don't want to put, like, try to think of an example. Let's just say AC. Don't put AC. Where are you going to see AC? You're going to see that a lot. And if you do contains, I've done that before. I go, oh, I'll just type this in, and I can't remember a specific thing. And one time I was looking at a song, and I'm like, why is the middle, like the artist, 2 letters in the middle of the artist capitalized? I'm like, ugh. So you have to get a little smarter. Like I said, it's not smart, but you got to be smarter than that. So in excess is now fixed. With a little work, the RDS has a much cleaner look. Personally, it shouldn't be an engineering thing. This needs to be a programming thing. But as we all know, engineering is always the one that has to clean up messes. Sorry if there's programming people in a room, but it just feels like it always comes down to engineering. Don't throw things at me too hard. Now, small markets are just a little different. They like to carry high school sports. People, they love it. They make money off of it. So is there possibly another revenue source? I came up with this. It's only one station. This one test station are the only people that use it, and I believe they're still using it. The screen looks very ugly because I whipped this together on a weekend. Of course, this is brought to my attention. Hey, can we do this like a week before football season started? And I just never went back and really updated it. But it allows you to do sports scores in the Big Rapids, Michigan was using this for on their couple FMs for high school. And that's what this particular screenshot was taken from Muskegon, Michigan. But that's kind of how it looks. I'll back up and say I was emulated on this station. So they don't use it, but I would just give it, this one I had, it was the closest drive to my house to emulate it. So that's what you would see on RT text. And you can put it on the scrolling text too. But that does require a board operator to do that, obviously. It's not that automated. But so as you can see here, you have, and then just showing this is what my user interface looked in 2024. That's what it's evolved to that. What about producer control? You may say that you're getting a little crazy. Do you want your producer having control of RDS? Maybe. You have to trust them. I don't think this particular station's doing this anymore, but I don't recommend it unless you have extreme trust in your air staff. What are some possibilities to enhance RDS beyond this? Maybe purchase an encoder capable of Radio Text Plus. But the problem is it's primarily for portable receivers and smartphones. I know a lot of people, manufacturers do support it. I'm not really familiar with where you can utilize it. I don't think it really took off. But Radio Text Plus, on a smartphone it does provide a link to like maybe the radio station website, et cetera, but again, that doesn't help the car radio. What about RDS2? I don't know how many people have heard about RDS2. It sounds cool because you can do a station logo or the program logo. And it does have expanded PS text, but here's the catch. You know, our RDS right now, it takes up, has your subcarrier. Some people run at 4%, some people run it at 6%, but obviously you sacrifice part of your signal. Well, RDS2, 3 carriers. Are you going to give up another 3 carriers of your mod? So what, you gain back half of your RDS, but you're still talking another, what, 10? You're giving up over probably 10% of your modulation here. It ain't going to happen. It's a loudness war out there. People are not going to give that up. I don't see it happening. 3 subcarriers is huge. So if you ran them all at 4%, you're talking right there. You're talking 16%, and you gain back what? 8 of that. It's not a reality, but it's cool what it can do. Few people do support RDS2. Automat has for quite a few years. Pure does, and there might be more. Those are just ones I was able to pick up. And I talked to a couple manufacturers. Said, "Hey, what cars support it?" I don't know. I've heard reports that some do. I don't have any specific examples. Rick, have you heard of anybody supporting RDS2? No, I thought I heard some people say they saw it pop up, but I don't recall. Does it? Okay. Well, it's good audio. Okay. Yeah. Oh. So what he's saying, you're saying that somebody asked why the logo's popping up on his Audi. Are you broadcasting RDS2? Oh, then it's HD. One I forgot to mention. What? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yep, okay. The dashboard and all that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, with the new dashboard and all that, it's crazy what you can get. But one thing I mentioned about this, what I've been done here, this is for analog only. I can't, even though the station is running in Big Rapids HD, basically for translators. I talked to at that time. It was Experian. I can't afford that. I can't afford to pay what they want and play. So it just is for analog. This is only going to be analog, this project. So just going over a couple of my key reviews here for what I found works in these small markets are you want to keep the messaging simple. You only got 8 characters. I personally like you choose the best parsing for the scrolling text. You can do it in the encoder or external. I like to capitalize all scrolling text. Use radio text for more detailed messaging. You know, people want to see the artist and title. I know my wife likes it because she doesn't know the names of the songs. She's like, what is that? So she likes to look down. Turn off the radio text padding if you can. I know a lot of the older encoders you can't. Properly spaced messages out, meaning you don't want to have the same message as necessarily have the same message dominate. That's where you can put in a delay. Properly format your metadata. Consider RDS as another revenue stream. And like I said, more and more people are seeing advertising on RDS. Personally, I think you put too much advertising on RDS, people are going to even look at way more. And I don't think people want that. So yes, make it a revenue stream, but don't make it annoying to the listeners. And middleware can allow the use of inexpensive encoders. Nothing against the more expensive ones. There's so many options. But as unfortunately the people I've dealt with, they don't have big budgets. Most of them won't. In our case, They went with peers, and they do a fine job, just not a lot of flexibility without middleware. So I recently been working with WION. They're in Ionia, Michigan. This gentleman, he doesn't have a big budget. He wanted to do RDS. He has an AM and a couple translators. And so I basically said, here, go for it. And I'm gonna I got a little quick thing here from his name's Jim Carlisle. He's owned these stations. He saved the station. How many days away from extinction, Rick? Do you remember? 3 days. He brought the station back. It's almost been 20 years. It was 3 days from the license disappearing. He saved it, and he's in a small community. And his success has been, he's made it clear to the small town, I'm here for you. And that's the key, I think. He as you can see here, he's an old-time broadcaster. He loves it. He loves his rotary dials. But that's his main on-air studio. So anyway, here's a quick thing from Jim.
Jim with WION Radio, and Mark's program has come in real handy because our old one kind of ran out. It stopped working, and it was, are you sitting down? DOS. Wasn't even Windows. So when we upgraded computers, DOS didn't want to work anymore for some reason. So Mark brought this program over here and said, have some fun. Well, we do. It's not unusual to not only have, of course, the artist and title, which we pick up from another room because we're streaming AM stereo in another room, and we use a finger printer to provide that information. That's a given. But his program automatically does the weather forecast for your area from the National Weather Service directly and shortens it down so that it's read easily if you're in a car, which is really cool. But we go one more, and we do when there's a watch or a warning, and put those on because we're usually here in the studio for that. So we can put on the watch, you know, if it's 9 hours, we can do that, and remind people regularly there is a fill-in-the-blank kind of watch, winter, whatever, summer, storms, whatever happens. Also, it's kind of cool to be able to have a little fun, and like when we had the engineers here for a picnic, the RDS said, welcome the SBE engineers, and a couple of them noticed. So that's kind of fun. We occasionally run something that'll get people's attention. Lately it's been very dry here. So over the last few dry days we've had Pray for Rain going across people's car radios, which is kind of cool. Did get an email that said, did that really say that? Yeah, it did. And we've had some fun with other ones, like just for the fun of it, to get it noticed again. We're running one line that says, I'm your radio and I saw what you just did. So we do a few things to grab attention, but the artist and title is always there. The weather is always there. It works well on our translator. This is not for a full-size FM. We're using it on an FM translator for AM, injecting it into the small wattage transmitter, and it gets almost as much range as the translator does. So it's doing really well if you're thinking about putting it on an AM that has an FM translator. By the way, it's data, not programming, so you can get away with it.
Something interesting about WION, he says, I'm streaming AM stereo. No, he's streaming AM stereo. If you go to his website, his stream is off-air stereo signal from AM. It actually sounds really good. So if you want to hear it true streaming of an AM signal, check this out. He's kept AM on. I don't, and it's phenomenal. And every year he hosts the West Michigan Lansing chapter. Engineers, he loves having us over. Has a cookout, gives tours of station. He loves showing off his stuff. Great guy, always there for you. But that's the old school broadcasting right there. So yeah, check out his website. It's very interesting. He's on Live 365 too, I believe. So here's a couple inexpensive encoders if you're looking to, if you don't have RDS encoding, you can get into peers. These are approximate prices. 310. That's if you go direct. Then they have their little cheaper than that for 265. I kind of like their P232 model, but I guess parts became unavailable and they stopped making them. And somebody recently told me that they figure they've just been riding the wave on all these sales, and they think with transmitter manufacturing, RDS, or stereo generators with RDS encoders built in, they're going to be out of business eventually on some of this stuff, and it's unfortunate. I mean, I have a couple 164s down there in service. I don't like them as much as the older ones. That's just my personal preference. And then Innovonics up there has an expensive one. So, but there's also Automats, Divas. I'm just, like I said, this focus was on budget. But like I said, they're all fine encoders out there. These are a couple of my markets used for testing. The Big Rapids there, that's between 68 and 157. There is no market number for that. WION, he's between 68 and 128, which is that's between Grand Rapids and Lansing, Michigan. And I don't even know how he gets ratings. I mean, how he can tell how he's doing. Cause it's just one of those markets off in the middle of nowhere. And then these are the WLCS, WVIB, WLAW. That's Cumulus in Muskegon, Michigan. That's market 222, way down there. And and they do a lot of local sports there, and that's coming real handy, with RDS and stuff like that. And I've been very fortunate for these markets. They've let me, and then another Cumulus station is LAV, WLHT, and Granite. Well, actually, WLAV is Cumulus, WLHT is Town Square, but these are people that have let me kind of play with their signals, which is, I've been very fortunate. But my big start was in the small markets there with that. And here's a few people that have really been behind me. Craig Bowman, Dave Grant, Mike Majeski. These guys are, they've been my push behind this stuff over the years. Otherwise, like I said, I probably wouldn't be doing any of this anymore. Of course, the downside is you have friends that that are behind you. It's like, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you add this? Can you do that? And it's harder to say no when they're friends. So, but overall, I found messaging in small markets is really good. Don't use it to your advantage. So, it's been an interesting ride for me, and I just wanted to share you some of the stuff, my development journey. Hope you got something out of it, the good, the bads, and to be honest with you, I'll go back and do some updates on stuff after the fact, and I go, what was I thinking 10 years ago when I wrote this? Or it couldn't have been me. Or I'm thinking, oh, it's pretty bug free. One day I'm going, why did I do that? I'm like, really? I did that? So I'm no expert in this. I didn't go to school for programming. I just picked it up over the years. It's just been a hobby. But it all started because I had no budget. So that's it. Hopefully you take something away from this. I appreciate everybody coming out. Any questions? Yes, Rick.
With messaging on the RDS, you got to be careful. We had a couple examples. We have another small market station in Michigan that on Friday afternoon, the Chevrolet dealer ended up doing an ad campaign and also on RDS. So all weekend long, it said on the RDS at different times on the station, to service your car, come to Graf Chevrolet. Monday morning came around, Graf Chevrolet had dozens of calls from people saying, my car is telling me to service, come to you and service my car. What's wrong with my car?
Right. Well, one thing to add to that, though, that makes it even more funny. This was quite a few years ago when RDS was just coming out, and people didn't know they had it on their radio. So I know this story.
Yeah.
So people didn't know what RDS was, and somebody fired it up in the market, and that caused a lot of havoc.
They said, turn this thing off. We're tired of the phone calls.
But
And then the second story is for like hot AC and pop stations when Pink had a song out called Blow Me One Last Kiss. And as Mark stated, for the 8-character text, some of these stations are putting their song title and artist in their radio text.
What happens if it gets stuck?
And, yeah, and all of a sudden, I had a coworker going, am I seeing something on my radio? Yeah.
You can just imagine what got stuck on the screen.
All across the nation, you know, people are running this song, and if they're doing song title and artist on the 8-character text, it's saying something inappropriate that might be offending
Well-
your listening standard. So you have to
What-
be careful on what you do with the RDS.
Rick has a screenshot. He just
I have a
But-
screenshot.
As you can tell, I have a passion for RDS here, and I try to utilize all RDS that's available to me, like for Westwood One and stuff like that. And I don't know how many of you are Westwood One affiliates. Fred Wilcox over there. Hey, Fred, it's Mark. You just hear this? Yes. I think the RDS is down again. Let me look into it. You know, they're not sending. I haven't seen RDS come across, you know, the Westwood One receiver in 2 weeks. A couple days later, it's fixed. But whenever I call him, he's just kind of like, RDS, yeah. But I like RDS. It's more, well, if you have a evening show that you're taking off satellite 5 days a week, 7 to midnight, you're talking, what, 25 hours of no artist title. It drives me nuts. That's just me. I want as much metadata out there as possible. And what Jim is doing is he's actually using a fingerprinting service. I'm not sure where it's out of. So I basically, there's this delay. Sometimes it picks it up like that. Other times it takes, I think on average it's 20, 30 seconds. So things are delayed. And one thing that's nice is I receive that data and I put like say a 2.5 minute time limit on it. The problem is when you get like a song that's 7 minutes, you don't have it, but is it better than metadata lingering out there for a long time? I think it is. Same thing with satellite programming. Westwood One doesn't always, they don't send the length. So like for some of this country stuff they send, I end up putting like what's a good time? 3 minutes, 25 seconds, happy medium. So, you know, your song's not going to appear up there. So I have a lot of flexibility. I feel that I've tried really hard to bring RDS to where I want to see it in these markets, but I'm not saying it's the right way. It's been successful for them. They're happy with it. So, and any other questions? No? All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for a great session, Mark. The exhibitor showcase and luncheon sponsored by Nautel is getting underway in the Short North Ballroom. Quick note about lunch. There's multiple food stations set up throughout the exhibit hall. They all have the same food. You probably only need to visit one of them. There's also some tables there in the exhibit hall and more in the registration area. After you eat, please do us all a favor. Spend some time with the exhibitors during the lunch break. Their support and participation help make this event possible. We want them to know how much we appreciate their participation. Plus, they got some really good products to show you. The afternoon breakout sessions begin at 2:30. Be sure to join us for our afternoon door prize drawings. There's a number of great items to give away, including the Sony 4K television. They'll be drawing winners during the closing general session. You must be present to win. Thanks and enjoy lunch.
Thanks, Gary.